They are tall, intelligent, and almost perfectly human-looking. What's more, they secretly live among us. In 1954, the US president vanished from public view for an entire night. The official explanation was a dentist appointment. Witnesses later claimed something very different. They said he was flown to a secret Air Force base to meet tall, human-looking extraterrestrials. Sounds like science fiction, right? But soldiers, pilots, and government insiders have all described the same beings, visitors with blonde hair and blue eyes, who look like ideal versions of us. Could it all be true? Are the Nordic aliens quietly influencing the course of human history, or is this just another wild conspiracy? We will find out together in this new episode of Secret Origins. Welcome. The story of the Nordic aliens begins in the early 1950s, at a time when the world was recovering from World War II and entering the age of rockets, satellites, and nuclear fear. People constantly looked up at the night sky, wondering who or what might be out there. That curiosity opened the door to one of the most famous alien stories of all time. One of the first people to claim a direct encounter with these beings was George Adamski, a Polish-American UFO believer living in California. In 1952, Adamski said he met a visitor in the Mojave Desert. According to him, this being was tall, youthful, with long hair and a peaceful presence. The visitor introduced himself as coming from Venus and warned humanity about the dangers of nuclear weapons. Adamski wasn't the only one to share such claims, but he was one of the first to become widely known. He wrote several books and traveled the world talking about his space brothers. In his stories, these Nordic-looking beings were not here to fight or conquer Earth. They wanted peace. They wanted to guide humanity, and they became known as the angels from space. At that time, it made sense to people that aliens could come from Venus. We knew very little about the planet. But as science advanced, we learned the truth. Venus is extremely hot, toxic, and completely uninhabitable, so the story changed. As space probes began revealing the harsh reality of our solar system, believers moved the home of the Nordics much farther away. Today, many claim these beings originate from the Pleiades star cluster, a group of bright blue stars visible from Earth. Some variations also connect them to a distant system known as Zeta Reticuli, often mentioned in modern UFO reports. This star system, located about 39 light-years from Earth, became famous after the Betty and Barney Hill abduction case in 1961. Betty Hill, under hypnosis, drew a strange star pattern she claimed was shown to her by extraterrestrials. Years later, astronomers realized her drawing closely matched the layout of Zeta Reticuli. Because of that, many UFO researchers began to believe that highly advanced humanoid beings, possibly the Nordics, could have originated from there. Zeta Reticuli is a double star system, which some theorists say might allow more advanced life to evolve due to its age and stability. Because of this shift, Nordic aliens were no longer seen as simple visitors from a nearby planet. They became advanced beings from deep space with powerful technology and a strong interest in humanity. This newer version of the story also added a mysterious twist. What if the Nordics have been here for much longer than we think? Many believe they didn't just arrive in the 1950s. Some point toward ancient mythology for clues. In Norse legends, gods like Odin and Thor are described as tall, fair-haired, and incredibly powerful. They lived in a place called Asgard, a realm above the human world. These gods were said to travel through the sky in radiant chariots, appearing suddenly before humans and then disappearing without a trace. Their knowledge, strength, and divine weapons often sound less like magic and more like advanced technology described by people who didn't have the words to explain it. So what if these stories actually describe early encounters with Nordic-like beings? As more stories about Nordic aliens began to spread, people around the world started claiming their own encounters with tall, human-like beings. These reports became especially common during the contactee movement of the 1950s and 60s. Witnesses described calm, peaceful meetings where the visitors communicated through telepathy, and their messages were often focused on the danger of nuclear weapons. According to those who claimed contact, the Nordics were worried that humanity could destroy itself before reaching its full potential. Many contactees said these beings appeared only briefly, shared a warning, and then left without harming anyone. They seemed to care about Earth, but they didn't interfere directly. They wanted humans to make their own choices. In the decades that followed, the encounters changed location, but not form. One of the most well-known incidents happened in 1980 in southern England, near Rendlesham Forest. Several US Air Force members reported seeing unusual lights and a craft on the ground. Some later said they saw tall, slim figures moving near the object. Officials offered simple explanations, like stars or a nearby lighthouse. Yet, the witnesses who were there have never changed their story. They believed they saw intelligent beings. In the United States, new claims came from military bases in the southwestern desert. A former US Air Force weather observer named Charles Hall said that in the 1960s, he encountered a group of tall, pale beings at Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada. Hall described them as cautious but willing to cooperate, especially with personnel they trusted. He believed these beings were using Earth as a temporary stop during their long-distance travel. Next, in Italy during the 1960s, a case known as the Friendship Case involved civilians along the Adriatic coast. A small group of locals said they worked with tall, blonde beings who lived secretly among them. They described the Nordics as friendly and curious, offering knowledge about peace and human unity. But they also insisted on secrecy, avoiding any situation that could reveal them to the wider public. Some encounters became famous worldwide. In 1975, American logger Travis Walton disappeared for 5 days in Arizona after a UFO sighting. When he returned, he reported seeing multiple types of beings aboard a craft, including tall, human-looking figures who did not harm him and seemed to be monitoring his condition. His case remains one of the most debated UFO encounters in history. Even earlier, Howard Menger shared stories of meeting beautiful, fair-haired beings who delivered messages about peace and warned humanity to change before it was too late. Menger's claims, like others from the contactee era, supported the idea that these visitors were our observers. But if Nordic aliens are truly real, then what do they look like? And even more importantly, what makes them so different from us? Well, witnesses describe these beings as tall, often much taller than any ordinary human. Most say around 6 to 7 feet in height, though some claim they have seen Nordics standing even closer to 9 feet. Their bodies seem perfectly built, strong yet elegant, without any physical flaws. People often say they look like an ideal version of a human being. Their skin is pale and smooth, sometimes described as glowing under certain lights. Their hair is usually blonde or even white, long and straight. Their eyes are one of the most memorable details, bright blue or sometimes green, with a sharp gaze that feels almost too intelligent. Many who claim to have stood near a Nordic say they felt unusually calm in their presence. Even when the situation should have been frightening, something about these beings made people feel peaceful and safe. It is almost as if the Nordics can influence human emotions, removing fear and replacing it with a sense of trust. Some witnesses believe this effect is not accidental. It might be a natural part of who these beings are, or perhaps an advanced ability they have learned to control. Just like their appearance, their clothing also seems too advanced to be from Earth. Nordic aliens are usually described wearing smooth suits that follow the shape of their bodies closely. They look futuristic, often shining like metal, or made from a material no one can recognize. People never report seeing stitches, buckles, or anything familiar. The clothing looks like something beyond human manufacturing. But the most fascinating part of the Nordic alien story is not their height or beauty. It is what they are able to do. According to countless contact reports, they communicate differently. Instead of speaking aloud, many say Nordics use telepathy, directly sending thoughts into a person's mind. Witnesses often explain how they instantly understood the message, as if the words appeared inside their head, complete and clear. There was no confusion. Communication happened naturally, like thoughts shared between old friends. People also describe abilities that seem to break the rules of physics. Some say the Nordics move silently, appearing inside closed rooms, without opening a single door. Their spacecraft, often glowing discs or bright white cylinders, seem to float without engines, changing direction instantly without slowing down. These ships can move at extreme speeds or hover in complete stillness. These reports lead many to believe that the Nordics are far more advanced than humanity, both technologically and spiritually. They might be operating on a higher form of existence. Some theories suggest that technology and consciousness are completely connected in their society. For them, mental abilities may be just as normal as using a phone is for us. And this brings us to one of the most surprising ideas in the Nordic alien legend. If they look like us, and if they can influence emotions so easily, what if they can also blend into human society without being noticed? Supporters of the theory believe that Nordics have the ability to change in subtle ways that allow them to walk among us as humans. This idea is known as shapeshifting. So if the Nordics can appear just like us, does that mean they are here living among us in this moment? And where would they be? Many believers think the answer is simple. They would blend into the places where the future of our world is being decided. Some reports suggest that Nordics have been seen in environments connected to global politics and diplomacy. Imagine someone tall, confident, and perfectly composed, sitting quietly during high-level meetings. They wouldn't need to speak much. All they would need to do is observe, influence, and guide. If their goal is to help humanity avoid disaster, then being close to powerful decision-makers would make perfect sense, right? Others believe Nordics are active in major corporations and scientific institutions. These are places where technology is invented, where new energy sources are developed, and where the world's future industries take shape. Witnesses claim that some executives seem almost too perfect, like never aging, never stressed, and of course, always in full control. These stories often mention one recognizable pattern: a calm, cold sense of focus. People who meet them say they carry themselves differently from anyone else. They look human, but something about them feels just a little off, like they're studying everyone around them. There is also a theory that Nordics prefer influence over control. Instead of taking over governments or revealing themselves through flashy displays of power, they may be using their intelligence and perfect human disguise to push humanity away from destruction. And here's the detail that keeps this theory alive. People who claim to have encountered Nordics often describe seeing them disappear just when questions start to rise, as if they stepped out of our world as easily as they stepped in. But why would they be here at all? You've seen that some believe they are here to protect the planet or to prevent us from making terrible mistakes. But there is one theory that might truly shock you. What if the Nordics are not only watching humanity from a distance, but are actively shaping what humanity will become? For decades, people have reported unusual encounters where they were taken aboard silent craft and examined by tall, calm beings with blue eyes and flawless skin. Unlike the terrifying abduction stories linked to other alien types, These encounters are often described as strangely peaceful. Witnesses say the Nordics were gentle, curious, and focused on one thing above all: the human body. Some claim they were told a bigger plan was in motion, the creation of a new race. According to these stories, the Nordics are working on hybrid children, a mix of their DNA and ours. These children reportedly look mostly human, but with features that stand out: perfectly symmetrical faces, brighter eyes, and a calmness that feels almost unnatural. Why would they do that? Believers say the answer might lie far in the past. There is a theory that the Nordics have visited Earth for thousands of years and have already mixed their DNA with early humans. This could explain why some people today naturally share their tall height, fair skin, and light hair. Maybe humanity has already been shaped by them once, and now the project continues. If the Nordics truly want to blend into human society, the most effective method wouldn't be disguises or technology. It would be biology. Create humans who carry the same genetic markers, the same appearance, the same calm and intelligent behavior, and no one would ever notice an alien living next door. Some who tell these stories believe the Nordics face a problem of their own. Their population is declining, or their DNA has weakened over time. By combining with humans, they may be strengthening both species. But what if their motives are not only about survival? Supporters of this theory say the Nordics want to guide humanity toward a more advanced future, one without war, fear, or disease. A hybrid human could be smarter, healthier, and emotionally balanced in ways we can only imagine. These children of two worlds might one day become the leaders of Earth, or even Earth's representatives in a larger universe. Witnesses who claim they have met hybrid children say they feel different around them. Some even report being told that these children will soon return to Earth to live among us permanently. If that were true, then maybe the Nordics are not visitors, but family, and maybe they are slowly shaping humanity into something more like them. All of this leads us into the wildest theory yet, and our story only gets more interesting from here. Back in the early 1950s, the Cold War was heating up, and the United States was racing to control the most powerful technology on the planet. Nuclear weapons had changed everything. World leaders were terrified of what might happen next, and they were desperate for any edge they could find. According to one of the most famous stories in UFO history, something unbelievable happened during this tense moment in time. In February of 1954, President Dwight D. Eisenhower was vacationing in Palm Springs, California, when he suddenly disappeared. His public schedule showed nothing unusual, but reporters noticed he was gone overnight. The White House later said he had a dental emergency. However, many believe the dentist's story was a cover-up. People who support this theory claim that Eisenhower secretly traveled to Muroc Airfield, today known as Edwards Air Force Base. There, under the cover of night, he met face-to-face with tall, human-looking extraterrestrials. And yes, these descriptions match the Nordic aliens perfectly. Witnesses later said the meeting was not hostile. In fact, the Nordics came with a warning. The story goes that they told Eisenhower humanity was heading toward disaster. Nuclear weapons were spreading too fast, and once they reached space, the consequences could be irreversible. The Nordics offered a deal. If Earth stopped building nuclear bombs, they would help us advance technologically and spiritually. They would guide us toward a better future. But allegedly, Eisenhower refused. Why? Because America did not want to give up its nuclear power during the Cold War. Instead, months later, the US supposedly negotiated a different agreement with another alien group, often described as the Greys. And that agreement was much darker: technology in exchange for access to the human population. If this is true, it would explain why abduction stories exploded in the decades that followed. The theory claims that alien groups were granted limited permission to study humans, and governments agreed to stay quiet, as long as people came back. But here's where the Nordics possibly return to the story. Many believe that even if the original deal failed, the Nordics never left. They continued their mission from the shadows, helping, warning, and maybe even working with small groups inside the government. Some suggest they gained access to secret military installations, especially those connected to advanced aerospace technology. Locations like Area 51 and its hidden S4 complex are often mentioned in this context. Why would military agencies cooperate with them? Think about it from the perspective of powerful leaders. If a being with greater intelligence and impossible technology approached you, would you turn that down? Imagine controlling anti-gravity aircraft, energy weapons, invisibility cloaks, and other things that could rewrite global power overnight. For governments obsessed with security, the temptation would be impossible to ignore. And according to this theory, not every leader cares about the survival of humanity as a whole. Some care about their own survival first. If a future crisis is coming, nuclear war, environmental collapse, or something even worse, then forming a secret alliance with advanced beings might guarantee safety for a select few. A place on the lifeboat, while the rest of the world suffers. That idea alone makes this theory terrifying. People who support this story say that after Eisenhower's secret meeting, an immediate silence fell across the government. Everyone involved was forced into secrecy. Technology is locked away where the public would never find it. And yet, every once in a while, a strange leak appears. A pilot sees a silent craft moving faster than any known aircraft. A scientist claims to have worked on materials not from this Earth. And whistleblowers mention tall, flawless visitors participating in classified briefings. Maybe, just maybe, someone powerful might already be working with the Nordics, and both sides may be gaining exactly what they need. So what is the truth? Is the lack of evidence a sign of a deeper truth? Is the government going to lengths to suppress knowledge of extraterrestrial interactions? Are the Nordic aliens really living among us, or are the eyewitnesses simply mistaken? What do you think?